This is the story of how I restored and enhanced our last year's garden in preparation for the 2023 season. Last year was good, but this year I want to turn it up a notch. By the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I made a beautiful garden twice the size of last year, all while saving money. To give you a history, this all started in April of 2022 when we started a garden in a planter box. We quickly outgrew that. Then we looked to our surrounding areas. We were timid at first because we'd never started a garden before, and it wasn't even our land. But as the success of our garden grew, our confidence grew with it. We were encouraged to continue on and venture to higher and higher heights. It was a lot of work. We didn't know what we were getting into, but we were compelled to continue on forward. As the season came to a close, we saw our garden start to wither away into a shadow of its original form. With the memories of past successes and failures rising up into my mind, I started to get motivated, knowing what lay ahead. To make this year a huge success, I came up with a 4-part master plan. Firstly, increase the size of the plot. Secondly, I wanted to save money on seedlings, raw materials, and any type of external labor. Thirdly, I knew I wanted to make this garden look prettier than it did last year. Last year I had some cosmetic or aesthetic problems that seemed to detract from the garden, which leads me to the 4th and final part, improving on techniques and maximizing our efficiency. Last year we had difficulty with plants overgrowing each other, fighting for vertical space, so this year I'm going to prioritize trellises, stakes, and other forms of vertical support. At this early stage in the project, I'm still focusing on part 1, expanding the garden. I'm spending most of my time clearing out the roots of the wisteria plant. The wisteria had been there for decades, no joke. So even from last year's excavation, there's still plenty left to dig up. I'm also finding these rocks. There used to be an old retaining wall that had since fallen down and decayed. I've been collecting all the rocks as you see here. It's fun to dig these wisteria roots out, but it's also a lot of work. So, in an effort to conserve energy and keep myself interested, I'm moving on to part 2. After 11 days, my seedlings needed to be repotted. The humidor is great for sprouting seeds in the germination stage, but it's not great after they've grown stems and leaves. Admittedly, I have killed plants in the past, so it's important to repot mature plants as needed. Last year, we purchased our plants already sprouted or half grown. So this year, I wanted to put forth the effort to save some money and do it myself. In retrospect, it's easy for me to say what I was doing, but in the moment, I was really just relying on my intuition and inspiration to keep me going. In my childhood, I loved using hand tools like shovels and axes. So more than anything, I just wanted a valid excuse to get outside and get them in my hands. I've never been great with appearances or presentation, so this project, being one of high visibility to all my neighbors, was a great opportunity for me to improve myself. Last year's stone stairs, my half-finished retaining wall, and our apartment's worn-out mailbox all presented themselves as objects to be transformed through my beautification process. Speaking of which, here's a mini montage of the mailbox rejuvenation. After that enjoyable break, it was time to get back to the garden. I had leveled the lower plot as much as I could. It was finally time to start on the upper plot. I knew I needed to build a retaining wall there, but I just wasn't sure where to start. I decided to lay a dry run of rocks to see how I liked the position of the wall. I used my largest and heaviest stones to make the steps and used wet clay to hold them in place. I was satisfied with the result. I realized that my hesitation was all for naught. The retaining wall was really starting to take shape, beauty was maintained, and the surface area was soon to be increased. I had a vision for the plan going forward. I knew what to do with all my rocks, I knew what I wanted to do with all the dirt, and I knew how much more I wanted to clear of the wisteria. It was time to get to work. Looking back, it's funny to me that I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what I wanted the final goal to look like, but each day I put in work, the garden started to find itself. I was just carving away the excess. At this point, I had finished the retaining wall for plot 2. Now it was time to work on plot 1. I wanted to connect last year's retaining wall to this ancient retaining wall that I had uncovered from the decades of overgrowth. As much as possible, I wanted to keep my topsoil on top and my clay beneath it. So in order to do this, I employed the help of another one of my childhood favorites, the wheelbarrow. I have fond memories of filling these bad boys up and learning how to drive them around. If you followed me for a while, you'll know that I like to work out and stay healthy. I used to run every day and lift weights, but it always felt like I was doing it out of compulsion, like I was sweating for no good reason, like a hamster on a wheel. But this is no longer the case. Working in the garden has solved that problem. It has been satisfying to employ both my body and my mind to this project. When I compare how I feel after lifting weights in the gym like a mouse versus how I feel after sweating in the garden, it's no contest. It's small, but suffering and sacrificing myself in service of my goals makes me feel alive. In my opinion, devoting my time to contribute towards the betterment of my family and community is a valuable use of my time. It's a large part of the reason for why I quit my engineering job. I knew that I worked hard, and I always gave my best effort, but it dawned on me that I didn't think very much about what I worked for. In a way, I was unconsciously following what family and society deemed was important. It was something of a crutch of mine. I never listened to how I felt. That always seemed unimportant to me, like my feelings were not something of value to me. So, it may sound silly that my third goal was to make this garden look pretty, but by encouraging myself to appeal to my own sense of beauty, I was bettering myself in a way that required me to care about how I felt. And this has been something of a difficulty for me, because I'm an overthinker, and my thinking opposes my feeling. This whole project was done with passion. I like making videos, I like working, and I like having a purpose in mind. Having a garden has given me so many things. The garden has so many meanings to me. My prerogative is to do that which is continuing my maturity. Each of us has a biological appetite for self-maturation. It is what pushes us forward. It motivates us to face that which terrifies us, despite our trembling and timidity. Each day, I set out to spend my time appropriately. And through this project, I was trying to judge how I used my time by how I felt afterwards. Was I proud of what I had done? Was I working towards my goals? Or was I just being busy because I was too afraid to sit still with myself? How was my work ethic? Was I cutting corners? Was I finding shortcuts? All of these thoughts put pressure on my ability to care about what I thought. It wasn't easy. I fought myself all the time. But this inner conflict, this inner turmoil, is the birthplace of one's mature personality. The day is finally here. No more excuses, no more roadblocks. We're getting this garden ready to house some plants. I've finished part 1 of our master plan. I've got plenty of space. I've prepared the land, removed the rocks, removed the roots. It's time to prepare a comfy bed for all my little plant boys.
Yes, Daddy.
Well, that is for plot 1. Plot 2, on the other hand, still needs to be leveled out, and a couple roots need to be plucked out, which is what you're seeing here in fast motion. In order to make a comfy bed, I brought in compost. I want the soil to be light and fluffy and easy for the roots to grow in. I want there to be plenty of nutrients and for the soil to retain moisture. I didn't manage to eliminate compost as a purchased resource completely, but I was able to make some of my own. I have a small worm farm that helps me to repurpose my kitchen scraps. It's been a fun project to keep up with and is always bubbling with life. At this point, the spring solstice is nearly upon me, and I'm worried that my plants are going to outgrow their pots. I gotta put them in the ground. There's just one small problem. The ground isn't ready. Enter an old friend. The tiller. Although it is of the electric variety, it still gets the job done. It's just more prone to, shall we say, mistakes. We finished tilling on the upper plot. Now I'm gonna try and rake it, get rid of some of the rocks, branches, twigs, and then we're gonna move some compost to this plot here. As this project is coming to a close, I can't help but be thankful. Working on this project has allowed me to go outside, get sunlight, work with my hands, and even listen to books. It may sound cheesy, but I feel more connected to life when I'm in the garden. I often think about life, and can't help coming back to the belief that life is all about how you spend your energy, what you spend your time on, what you sweat for, and whether it's all worth it. For me, when I look to my past, I want to be proud of the way I spent my time and energy. Sharing, caring, and connecting with my nature are some of my favorite ways to do so, and luckily, I can do them all in my garden. I'm not the best gardener, I'm not the best storyteller, and nor am I the best father. But each day I practice facing my fears and growing as an individual. I get one day closer to achieving my goals. As you could have guessed by now, I haven't only been talking about my physical garden. It may seem strange to some, but the well-being and care I put into my physical garden is mirrored in my spiritual garden. My intentions, my attitudes, my mental dialogue, and how I face the external world, aka my garden, is but a reflection of how I face my interior world, aka my soul, my center, and my bounds, which happen to be found in the dark, the scary, and the unknown parts of the world. When I choose to meet them with a patient and understanding face, their hostility softens and my work becomes easier. At this point, the beds are prepped and my seeds are ready to be sown. There's only one thing left to do. Of course, invite over all your community members and celebrate the rebirth of the sun for this new spring fertility. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed with how many people showed up. It was a lot of fun, everybody wanted to help out, it was good. I'm proud to have spent all that time making such a beautiful thing and bringing people closer together. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for your support. I hope this video was helpful to you. I'm working on another project and hope to make a video of it soon. Until then, I hope you have a great day.
To be free, to be accepted for who you are and loved no matter